Obviously, we got the Packers and the Eagles playing in Brazil. It's going to be a big game down there. But how do you see both teams playing out, not only in Brazil, but for the season as a whole?
So, I mean, it really depends on your perspective, right? Obviously, people were concerned about Jordan Love on the Green Bay side when he came out of college behind Aaron Rodgers. Inaccuracy was an issue, demeanor was an issue, mentality was an issue. But again, all of that came while he was a backup to one of the greatest quarterbacks of this generation. When he was put on the spot, he struggled. And then when he had a full season under his belt, he started off slow. And then at some point towards the middle half, maybe even earlier middle half of the season, Jordan Love came on. Jordan Love ended up earning one of the highest paid contracts in NFL history for the quarterback position, upwards of $50+ million a season. So I think he turned out pretty well. And then you talk about the supporting cast out there. Unfortunately, they did let go of Aaron Jones, and AJ Dillon did get hurt as well. So they are missing some key pieces. But when you talk about what Green Bay was able to do from a holistic standpoint last year, they did turn a lot of heads. And then you talk about Philadelphia starting off 11-1 every single game after that and falling not just short, plummeting off of the side of a cliff to lose in the wild card game when they were projected to go back to the Super Bowl. Now, how do you bounce back? You go and you get Saquon Barkley. You trade for Jahad Dotson. You go and you sign Devin White. You go and you draft two corners that could go and add some depth to that weakened secondary. You bring back CJ Gardner Johnson. Yes, Jason Kelsey retired. Yes, Fletcher Cox retired. But there were already holes on that roster well before they were going to leave. And they had some pretty solid replacements with Jordan Davis at the DT position, Jalen Carter at the DT position, and I'm pretty sure they just moved over one of their guards in Cam Jurgens to play the center position, which, again, if I remember correctly, Cam Jurgens was a pretty good pick coming out of college as himself. So I predict the Eagles. I was actually looking at their schedule with Isabel's dad. Again, my girlfriend's parents. All of them are from the Delaware area, which means they're all obviously Philadelphia Eagles fans. We went down the schedule. Realistically, they should win no less than 12 games this year. And that is just strictly upon roster. They're better than this team. They're better than this team. They may lose to this team. Maybe they have a rubber match, a tight game against this team. But when it comes to the end result, I don't see the Eagles losing less than 12 games this year. And if they do, it's a bigger issue than people let on. They had all the rumors with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts not getting along last season. They had a horrible offensive and defensive coordinator system out there that have now been replaced with Vic Fangio and obviously Kellen Moore. Jalen Hurts is in year 4 or 5 of his development. A.J. Brown got an extension. Devontae Smith got an extension. This team is poised for another deep run. There is zero reason why the Philadelphia Eagles are not regarded as a top 2 team in the NFC because of this lineup, because of this coaching staff, and because of the improvements that they made because of Howie Roseman. So I predict the Eagles to come out here and fire on all cylinders. Now, Devin White did not travel to Brazil. He does have an ankle injury, so he will not be playing. But I do think that Philly will bounce back, but it will be a very close game because, as I said, Jordan Love got paid. Now it's a matter of, are you going to show your worth and repeat that success in the following season? I think he's got the confidence. I think Matt LaFleur showed when he was with Aaron Rodgers, and now with Jordan Love, it doesn't matter the quarterback that he has. They just need to tighten a little bit on defense, and I think that they can make it a competitive game. If anything, I don't see the Green Bay Packers not making the playoffs. So please let me know what you guys think. I'd love to have a debate. I'd love to have a discussion. Kyle and I are always up for, discussions in the comments, but that's going to be a really good game with two strong NFC opponents, and I really think Philly ends up pulling it out in Brazil.
Yeah, like when it comes to both teams, I think they're both in prime position to be NFC contenders this year. I definitely see the Eagles bouncing back after the debacle that they had at the end of the regular season last year. And Kev, like you said, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if you could see it, but whenever you sip from your thermos, there's like a little like bubble that shows up. It's like a little water bubble, and it has like a little thumbs up with it. So
Oh, that's the new Apple software thing because I think you could do like this and that because I'm doing it on my phone, and you could do a heart one too. It's
it,
weird, but anyway.
it might be because you were drinking water at the same time, so it probably popped up because of that. But either way, that was kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that. But to get back on topic, uh, I definitely see both teams having a pretty successful year. Like I said, I think the Eagles are going to be able to bounce back from that nightmare situation that happened at the end of last year. And when it comes to the Packers, I think they just focus on the things that need to be done to continue the momentum that they had from last year. And when it comes to the Packers, I'll start with them first, and then I'll transition to the Eagles. You know, when I look back at the at acquiring Josh Jacobs, that may be probably one of the most unsung transactions for the Packers the entire year because, like Kev said, AJ Dillon is out for the rest of the year, so they're going to have to really rely on him carrying the bulk work with the run game. And obviously, when it comes to Jordan Love, he has definitely progressed since coming into the NFL a couple years ago, and he definitely deserved that contract extension, making him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. Now it's just coming to a point where, now can he take his game and elevate it to the next step? When it comes to the Eagles, the biggest thing for me is the situation between Nick Sirianni and the rest of the team, because it is undeniable that there was legitimate tension between Nick Sirianni. There may have been some coaching staff members a part of it as well, and the rest of the team. And it just seemed like pretty much the last, I'd say, third or like 40% of the season, it was a completely different team that we saw compared to the first half of the year or like the first 2/3 of the year. And if that were to continue, if there is any sort of tension that has lingered on into this year and it now becomes a focal component of this team, that could potentially derail this team this year. Because like Kev said, when you look at just the names, when you look at this team on paper, this team is stacked as far as the Eagles are concerned. Like Kev said, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, Dallas Goedert. You brought in Devin White. And, despite the fact that you lost Fletcher Cox, they were able to bring back some key pieces to essentially reinforce not just the defensive side, but the offensive side as well. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, because when you look at Philly has always been a very fast team. They've been very run heavy, and they love running the read option with Jalen Hurts. And I think that is going to be renewed, and it's going to be a little bit different with Saquon, just because Saquon is going to be the featured back. Because when you look at years past, they've never really had what I would consider as a true number one in what you would consider like Saquon Barkley to be, because he's clearly going to be the number one back, and you're going to have Kenneth Gainwell behind him, but Saquon's going to get the load of the work here. And it's just going to be interesting to see how that team adapts offensively with that change. But like Kev said, I do believe that, the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL on paper, and they should win a considerable amount of games this year, at least 11 to 12 games as far as I'm concerned. Anything less than that would probably be a failure as far as I'm concerned. But I think both teams are in a really good position here. As far as the game is concerned, when it takes place in Brazil, it's really a toss-up in my mind. You can make a case for either or, but I'm going to say that the Packers shocked the Eagles in this one. I think it's going to be a relatively close game. I could see this game potentially being a one-possession game when it's all said and done. But I'm going to go with Jordan Love. I'm going to go with the fact that maybe not a lot of people are counting them in for this game, and they're looking at just how stacked the Eagles roster is going into not only this game, but into this season. And I think that they have a possibility to shock the world, no pun intended, with the game taking place in Brazil, and get a win on the road. And granted, when I look at these games, a lot of these teams are going to go through adjustments to the first 4 weeks of the year anyway. So I'm not really going to put too much emphasis on this game as far as the outlook for the rest of the season, because these teams are going to be a lot different from now compared to what we see in late October into early November. But I think it's going to be a fun game. I'm going to pick the Packers by one possession in this one, and we'll see what happens when it comes to the whole security situation that's been surrounding this game, because both teams, as far as I've seen, are not really happy about the situation down there.